What if the moment you feel most lost is actually the moment you are closest to discovering who you truly are? There comes a point in life when something inside you begins to crack. At first, it's subtle, a quiet discomfort, a strange feeling that the life you are living no longer feels like your own. The goals that once excited you suddenly feel hollow. The conversations around you sound repetitive and empty. Even the person staring back at you in the mirror begins to feel unfamiliar, and you can't quite explain why. Most people ignore this moment. They bury it under routines, distractions, and noise. They scroll endlessly, work harder, chase approval, or fill their days with constant activity just to avoid the terrifying silence where these questions live. Because deep down they sense something unsettling, something that threatens the identity they have spent their entire lives building. But eventually, the silence grows louder. And then it happens. The breaking point, the moment when the carefully constructed version of yourself begins to collapse. The beliefs you once trusted begin to feel like borrowed ideas. The identity you worked so hard to maintain suddenly feels like a costume that no longer fits. The life you thought you wanted starts to feel strangely distant, like a story written for someone else. This moment can be terrifying. It feels like losing control. It feels like failure. It feels like the ground beneath your feet is disappearing. Many people interpret it as a crisis, an emotional collapse, a period of confusion, even a sign that something is wrong with them. But according to the legendary psychologist Carl Jung, this moment is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. Jung believed that before a person can discover who they truly are, they must first confront the illusion of who they thought they were. The personality you present to the world, the roles you play, the expectations you fulfill, the identity shaped by society, family, and fear, can only hold for so long. Eventually, something deep within your psyche begins to resist living a life that is not authentic. And when that resistance grows strong enough, the old identity begins to fracture. That fracture is the beginning of self-discovery. Think about it. Every meaningful transformation in human history begins with disruption. A seed must split open before it can grow into a tree. Muscles must tear before they become stronger. Old structures must fall before new ones can be built. The same principle exists within your psychology. Growth rarely begins with comfort. It begins with tension, with doubt, with the unsettling realization that the life you are living might not truly belong to you. This is the psychological breaking point, the moment where your mind begins to question everything it once accepted without thought, the moment where you begin to see through the patterns that once controlled you, the moment where the masks you have worn for years start to slip. And suddenly, you are faced with a question most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Who am I without all of this? Dive exactations, without the approval, without the roles you were taught to play. For many people, this question feels unbearable. It shakes the foundation of their identity. It exposes fears they never wanted to confront. It forces them to face the possibility that they have been living on autopilot, following a script written by others. But hidden inside this discomfort is an extraordinary opportunity, because the moment you begin questioning the identity you were given, you gain the power to create the identity you choose. This is why the breaking point feels so intense. It is not just emotional chaos. It is psychological rebirth. Your mind is shedding outdated versions of yourself, clearing space for something far more authentic to emerge. But here is the truth most people never realize. The pain you feel during this moment is not proof that you were lost. It is proof that you are waking up. The confusion you feel is not weakness. It is awareness. The discomfort you feel is not failure. It is the mind breaking free from limitations it once accepted as reality. And if you are experiencing this moment right now, if you feel like everything you once believed about yourself is shifting, then understand something powerful. You are breaking through, because before you can become who you truly are, you must first let go of who you were never meant to be. At some point in life, a quiet but relentless exhaustion begins to grow inside you. It's not the kind of tiredness that sleep can fix. It's deeper than that. It's the fatigue of constantly performing, constantly adjusting, constantly shaping yourself into the version of you that the world expects to see. For years, sometimes decades, you play the role perfectly. You become the responsible one, the successful one, the agreeable one, the strong one, the person who never complains, never questions, never disrupts the expectations placed upon them. You learn early which parts of yourself are acceptable and which parts must stay hidden. So you polish the acceptable parts. You amplify them. You build your identity around them. And slowly, almost without realizing it, you construct what the world applauds, but what your soul quietly rejects. Carl Jung called this mask the persona. The persona is the version of yourself designed for survival. It is the identity you create to fit into society, to earn approval, to avoid rejection, to navigate the complex social structures around you. It is the professional image you present at work, the personality you adopt in front of friends, the carefully controlled version of yourself that says the right things, behaves the right way, and never risks being misunderstood. At first, the persona feels useful, even empowering. It helps you belong, it helps you succeed, it helps you avoid conflict and move smoothly through life's social systems. But there is a hidden cost, because every mask you wear requires energy to maintain. Every time you silence your true thoughts to appear agreeable, every time you suppress your real emotions to avoid judgment, every time you ignore your inner voice just to meet someone else's expectations, you create a small fracture between who you truly are and who you pretend to be. And over time, those fractures begin to multiply. You might still be succeeding on the outside. People might admire your achievements. Your life might look impressive from a distance, but inside, something begins to feel strangely disconnected. You wake up some mornings and feel an unexplainable emptiness. You achieve goals that once meant everything, and feel almost nothing when you reach them. You sit in conversations that should feel meaningful, yet part of you feels like an actor reading lines from a script. This is the quiet signal that the persona is becoming too heavy to carry. And here is the truth Jung understood deeply. The persona was never meant to become your entire identity. It was meant to be a tool, a bridge between your inner self and the external world. But when you mistake the mask for the person behind it, you begin to lose contact with the very core of who you are. That loss of communication creates tension inside the psyche. At first, the tension whispers. You feel small moments of dissatisfaction, fleeting doubts, questions you quickly push aside. But the unconscious mind is patient. What you suppress does not disappear. What you ignore does not dissolve. Instead, it gathers strength beneath the surface, waiting for the moment when it can no longer be ignored. And eventually, that moment arrives. The mask starts to crack. You begin questioning choices you once defended with absolute certainty. You start noticing how often you compromise your truth just to keep others comfortable. The life structure you built, career paths, relationships, identities begins to feel strangely misaligned with who you are becoming. This realization can feel deeply unsettling, because when the persona begins to collapse, It feels like losing the identity that once gave you stability. The role that once defined you suddenly feels hollow. The labels you carried with pride start to feel restrictive. Many people panic at this stage. They rush to repair the mask. They double down on the roles they have always played. They silence the inner voice demanding authenticity, because the idea of stepping outside the persona feels dangerous. After all, the persona brought acceptance, and acceptance feels safe. But Jung warned that clinging too tightly to the persona creates a life of quiet despair. A life where a person may achieve everything society celebrates while feeling internally disconnected from their own existence. True growth begins the moment you recognize the mask for what it is, a performance, not your essence. And when that realization takes hold, something powerful begins to happen. The energy you once used to maintain appearances begins to redirect inward. Instead of asking, "What do people expect from me?" you begin asking a far more revolutionary question: what is actually true for me? This question changes everything. Because the moment you stop living exclusively through the persona, you reclaim something society can never manufacture for you: authenticity. And authenticity is not comfortable at first. It disrupts old patterns. It challenges relationships built on expectations. It forces you to confront choices you made while wearing a mask. But it also unlocks a level of psychological freedom that few people ever experience, because the greatest strength a human being can possess is not the ability to perform perfectly for the world. It is the courage to remove the mask and finally live as the person who exists beneath it. And then it comes, the moment you can no longer ignore the truth that has been waiting in the shadows of your mind, the hidden parts of yourself, the emotions you've buried, the fears you've avoided, the desires you've denied, everything you pushed away in order to survive starts to rise. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the part of the psyche that contains all that we refuse to acknowledge, the traits we hide even from ourselves, the darkness we are afraid might make us unworthy. At first, the shadow is terrifying. It manifests as anger you never wanted to admit, jealousy that surprises you, insecurities you spent years concealing. It whispers accusations, dredges up old regrets, and confronts you with the mistakes you thought were long buried. It challenges everything you believed about yourself, shaking the foundations of your carefully constructed life. And it's uncomfortable, excruciatingly so. Your mind wants to turn away, to distract itself with noise, work, social media, relationships, anything to avoid facing the raw truth within. But this is the pivotal moment, the crossroads of transformation. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your unpolished, untamed or it is the raw material from which a stronger, more authentic version of yourself is forged. The darkness within is not something to flee from. It is something to embrace, to understand, to integrate. The human tendency is to suppress it, to deny it, to pretend it does not exist. But the truth is, every attempt to hide from your shadow strengthens its grip over you. The more you ignore it, the more it controls your life from the shadows, dictating your fears, sabotaging your actions, and whispering doubts that keep you trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction and regret. Jung taught that only by confronting the shadow can you reclaim your full self. The confrontation is brutal. There are no shortcuts, no quick fixes. You will feel exposed. You will feel vulnerable. You will feel moments of shame, guilt, or despair. But it is precisely in those moments that transformation begins. Every time you acknowledge a hidden truth, every time you accept a part of yourself you once rejected, you are reclaiming the energy that was scattered, lost, or repressed. You are turning inner chaos into inner strength. This process demands courage, relentless courage. It demands the kind of honesty that shakes you to your core. There is no pretending here, no illusions, no comforting masks. You must stare directly at your fear, your anger, your resentment, your envy, your grief, and say, "You are part of me. I accept you. I claim you. I will not be ruled by you, but I will no longer deny you." And when you do this, something extraordinary happens. The shadow loses its power over you. The emotions that once controlled you now become tools, guides, and allies. Anger becomes fuel for action. Fear becomes a teacher. Grief becomes a source of empathy and depth. The traits you rejected are now part of your wholeness. They are no longer enemies. They are components of a self that is real, dynamic, and resilient. This is the alchemy of the psyche. The darkness you feared is the very thing that makes you whole. Jung called this process integration, and it is not theoretical. It is visceral. It is the lived experience of stepping into the totality of your being. The moment you accept your shadow, you stop running, you stop fragmenting, you stop giving away your power to external forces. You become a singular force of authenticity, grounded in reality, aware of your flaws, yet unstoppable in your pursuit of growth and truth. And here is the secret that changes everything. No one can give you permission to face your shadow. No external authority can guide you through this journey. It is yours alone. Every moment of confrontation, every uncomfortable realization, every painful acknowledgement of what you have denied strengthens your independence, sharpens your clarity, and fuels your courage. It is painful, yes, but it is purposeful. It is the crucible in which greatness is born. The people who achieve true self-mastery, who live with authenticity, who radiate confidence, who inspire others, are not those who avoided the shadow. They are those who embraced it. They looked at every dark corner of their psyche and said, "I see you. I claim you. I am more than my fear, my anger, my shame, my doubt. I am whole." If you are listening to this, if you feel even a flicker of that inner unrest, understand this. The shadow is not punishment. It is invitation. It is the call to ease, to claim yourself, to step beyond the masks, the false identities, and the comfortable illusions. The shadow is not your enemy. It is the key to your freedom, the gateway to your power, the beginning of a life that is fully, unapologetically yours. Do not fear it. Do not flee it. Embrace it. Meet it head on. And as you do, know this. The chaos you feel is the heartbeat of transformation. The darkness you face is the forge in which your authenticity is forged. The pain you endure is the tuition of greatness. And on the other side of this confrontation lies something more magnificent than you have ever imagined. The power to be fully, unshakably, brilliantly yourself. And then, after you face the shadow, after you look into the parts of yourself you once feared, resisted, or denied, something extraordinary begins to happen. It is subtle at first, a quiet shift in how you see yourself, in how you feel in your own skin, but it grows unstoppable until you recognize it for what it is. Transformation. Carl Jung called this stage individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating the fractured pieces of yourself into a singular, authentic being. And make no mistake, this stage is not comfortable, but it is power. Raw, unshakable, liberating power. Imagine standing at the edge of a storm. Behind you, chaos, the collapse of old identities, the confrontation with your shadow, the tearing apart of illusions, that once defined your life. Ahead of you, clarity, the sense of self that is no longer borrowed from others, no longer shaped by fear, no longer dependent on validation. The turning point is the moment you step out of the storm, not running, not resisting, but walking forward with awareness, claiming the energy that once scattered you, turning turbulence into momentum. This is the stage where integration occurs. Every shadow trait you faced, every fear you acknowledged, every uncomfortable truth you accepted begins to merge into your consciousness as strength. Your anger becomes discernment, your fear becomes intuition, your grief becomes empathy, your doubt becomes focus. The fragments of your psyche that once fought each other are now aligned, working in harmony, forming a foundation that is unbreakable. At this point, you begin to live with a new kind of confidence, not arrogance, not the shallow confidence of performance or pretense, but deep, unshakable assurance rooted in self-knowledge. You are no longer controlled by expectations, by past mistakes, by the pressures of conformity. You are guided by something far more powerful, your inner truth, your core identity, your authentic will. And here is what most people never understand. This stage is where the real power of life begins. The breaking points, the crises, the emotional chaos, they were not obstacles, they were training grounds. They were the fire that tempered you. Every moment of uncertainty, every confrontation with fear, every period of darkness was necessary to strip away the inauthentic layers and reveal the force of who you truly are. Now, when you face challenges, you meet them differently. Obstacles no longer terrify you, they test you. Setbacks no longer derail you, they refine you. Criticism no longer wounds you, it teaches you. Because at this stage, your power does not depend on circumstances, it does not depend on luck, on approval, on validation. Your power comes from inside, from the alignment of your mind, your heart, and your soul. And the beauty of integration is that it does not stop at self-mastery. When you have aligned yourself, when you have embraced your shadow and reclaimed your power, you become a force that naturally inspires those around you. People are drawn to authenticity. They feel the energy of someone who has fought through faced themselves without compromise, and emerged stronger. You become a lighthouse in a storm, not because you control the waves, but because your light is unwavering, even as the world rages around you. Yet this is not about perfection. Integration is not the elimination of flaws, but the mastery of them. It is the recognition that every part of you, light and dark, strong and weak, is valuable and necessary. You learn to act not from fear of what others think, but from clarity of purpose. You act not from reaction, but from intention. Every choice, every word, every action is filtered through the lens of authenticity, grounded in a self that is unshakable, unstoppable, and fully alive. At this stage, you begin to experience what Jung called inner freedom, the freedom to create, to pursue, to grow, and to love without being limited by the past or constrained by expectation. You are no longer fragmented, you are whole. And this wholeness is not passive. It is active, vibrant, and magnetic. It propels you forward, compelling you to live a life that is not merely endured, but fully claimed. So if you find yourself at this point, if you have stared into the darkness, faced your fears, and begun to integrate your truths, understand this. You are no longer the person you were yesterday. You are stronger, wiser, clear, and the world will feel the force of your presence because it is no longer filtered, no longer diluted, no longer masked. This is the turning point. This is the rebirth. This is the stage where your past struggles transform into unstoppable momentum. Your breaking point was not the end. It was the ignition. And now, with clarity, courage, and integrated power, you are ready to rise, to act, to live not as the world expects, but as you are always meant, to fully, unapologetically, and brilliantly alive. Your shadow has been faced. Your chaos has been med. Your authentic self is emerging. And the path from here is no longer defined by limitation. It is defined by the strength, clarity, and boundless potential that comes from knowing, with unwavering certainty, who you truly are. And now, finally, you stand at the threshold of something extraordinary. The place where transformation meets action, where insight becomes power, and where the fragments of your past merge into a singular force of authentic being. This is the rebirth of the self, the moment Carl Jung described as the emergence of the authentic self. It is not a metaphor. It is a tangible, electrifying reality, waiting for those brave enough to embrace it fully. Every breaking point you endured, every shadow you faced, every doubt you wrestled with, everything has led you to this pivotal moment. And here, the universe is offering you a simple yet profound choice. Continue living by old illusions, or rise as the person you were always meant to be. This is the moment where your past collapses and your future is born. You feel the weight of old expectations lift from your shoulders, and for the first time in your life, you breathe freely in the space of your own truth. You are no longer playing roles to satisfy others, no longer performing to meet standards that were never yours, no longer constrained by the fears, doubts, and insecurities that once ruled your decisions. You are liberated, and liberation is the most potent form of power there is. Understand this. Rebirth is not comfortable. It is not a gentle unfolding. It is explosive, disruptive, and relentless. It challenges every relationship, every habit, every belief that no longer serves the person you are becoming. The world will resist your transformation because it fears your power, your clarity, your authenticity. People may try to pull you back into conformity, but your rebirth is unstoppable. Once you have tasted the truth of your own identity, you can no longer return to shadows, pretenses, or borrowed lives. And this is the gift of the breaking point. It equips you to move forward with purpose. The chaos you once feared, the pain you once resisted, and the darkness you once avoided now become your allies. Every scar from your struggles is proof of your strength. Every lesson from failure is ammunition for your next move. Every confrontation with your shadow is a reminder that you have already survived the hardest battles inside yourself. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the master of your own destiny. In this state of rebirth, clarity becomes your constant companion. You see your life for what it truly is. You recognize the patterns that held you back and the distractions that once consumed your energy. You stop chasing approval because you no longer need it. You stop fearing judgment because you understand that the only authority that matters is your own. And you stop living on autopilot because every moment now holds infinite potential. Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us that no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Your roots have touched the depths of your own psyche, the depths of fear, pain, doubt, and chaos. You have fought through the storms of your mind, faced the darkness no one else could see, and emerged not broken, but whole. And it is from these roots, these forged, resilient, unshakable roots, that your new life rises, reaching toward every dream, every ambition, every vision of yourself that you have yet to fully realize. The rebirth of the authentic self is also a call to action. This is not a moment to simply admire your transformation in silence. It is a summons to live boldly, courageously, and fully. Every choice you make from this point forward carries the weight of authenticity. Every decision, every relationship, every endeavor becomes an extension of the power you reclaimed from your own breaking point. You no longer settle for mediocrity, for half-lives, for borrowed identities. You pursue the extraordinary because you know now that your true self is capable of it. And here is the most exhilarating truth. The world around you responds to authenticity with magnetic force. People are drawn to courage, inspired by clarity, and compelled by those who act from the center of their own power. Your rebirth does not only transform your life, it radiates outward, creating influence, impact, and inspiration that reaches far beyond what you imagined possible. You are now a beacon for anyone who is lost, struggling, or still trapped in illusions. Your life becomes proof that transformation is possible, that breaking points are not the end, but the beginning. So stand tall, fully awake, fully present, fully alive. Embrace the rebirth with every fiber of your being. Look at the chaos you endured, the darkness you faced, and the masks you shed, and see them for what they truly are. The fire that forged you, the crucible that revealed you, and the bridge that brought you to yourself. Your breaking point was never the end. It was the ignition. Your shadow was never your enemy. It was the teacher. And your rebirth is not just a personal victory. It is the moment your real story begins. Step forward. Claim your life. The authentic self is awake, unstoppable, and ready to create a future that no one, not even yourself, could have imagined.